before we continue, I will tell you of a story where a 90-kilogram bag of potatoes costs 500 shillings. That is equivalent to 2 plates of chips. Good morning. My name is Victor Oloo. Right now, it's time for In the Headlines, what's making the headlines in the last 24 hours here in our local dailies. And I have the Standard newspaper and the Star newspaper. Let me start with the Standard. Revealed how NASA will share millions. This is after ODM wrote to the political parties, registered political parties, on how the political parties fund will be shared. And now it's revealed that the money here stands at 489 million shillings from the political parties fund, and ODM will get 55% share. That is equivalent to 187 million shillings. Wiper Democratic Movement will get 20.6%, equivalent to 70 million shillings. ANC will get 12.9% of the share. That is 43 million shillings. And Ford Kenya will get 10.5%, that equivalent to 36 million shillings. And lastly, Chama Cha Mashinani will get 0.9%, translating to 3 million shillings. Now, four estranged NASA partners will share 153 million shillings out of the 489 from the political parties fund after ODM had a change of heart, even as Raila yesterday stormed the president's backyard with an eye firmly fixed on 2022. All right, there you have it. And now there are details there of the autopsy report from the late Kangogo. An autopsy on Corporal Kangogo, the policewoman accused of killing 2 men, including her colleague in Nakuru, revealed that she died of a single gunshot to the head that entered her body in the right chin and exited on the left side of the head. That is the autopsy report as per the report which was done by the government pathologist, that is Dr. Johansen Odur. Okay, still on the Standard. Now, when crooks plot to get rich very quickly, but don't plan how to spend the loot. So many suspects have signed their arrest warrants by flashing their wealth online. It's an interesting story there that you can take a read on and just get to know how some of these people in the Wild West, when God papa wearing and all that, putting on whatever they can, brandishing guns and just messing away with loot, but then splash their money online, and that's how they sign their arrest warrants. Okay, so this is it. Ford Kenya now calls for meeting to decide its fate in Ireland. This is just a day after Wiper had their National Executive Committee meeting. Now, Ford Kenya faction led by Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula will hold a parliamentary group meeting, that is PG, Tuesday next week, to decide its fate in the sinking National Super Alliance coalition. The party called off a PG scheduled for Monday after failing to raise quorum. Now, the Lion Party is set to follow in the footsteps of 2 other NASA partners and parties and exit the minority coalition in Parliament. That is what is making there. So next week on Tuesday, they'll have their parliamentary group meeting to decide their fate in the NASA coalition. All right. So this is it. ODM to share funds with the NASA coalition partners as well is still in politics. And according to the Political Parties Act, a party gets to get no funding if it does not secure at least 5% of the total number of votes at the preceding general election. Now, the sharing of the amount from 3 financial years is tabulated based on votes attributed to parliamentary seats by the 5 National Super Alliance partners, that is Wiper, ODM, Amani National Congress, ANC, Ford Kenya, and Chama Cha Mashinani. Now, Kalonzo Musyokas will receive 70 million from the 2017-2018, 2018-2019, and 2019-2020, while ANC of Musalia Mudavadi will get 43.9 million shillings. All right. And lastly, before I give it to you, Jain, Raila courts Mount Kenya. Bloc kicks off unity rallies countrywide. That is the rallies across the country will be headlined by President Kenyatta and himself. ODM leader Raila Odinga's tour of Murang'a County yesterday was one of his many attempts to woo the central voting bloc ahead of the next year's general election. Although he's yet to officially throw himself into the presidential ring for 2022, his heightened political activities lately have raised eyebrows, and yesterday's event points to his desire to win over President Uhuru Kenyatta's staff. So before yesterday, questions had been raised by, why despite the handshake with President Kenyatta, the duo are yet to hit the ground running. And now reports have it that from next week or in the next 2 weeks or so, they will start countrywide tour to popularize handshake and any other factor therein. So that is as far as Raila's political move is concerned. But then now, something to talk about. And artists are happy with the state's move to exempt ringtones from excise duty. Now, artists have welcomed the state's move to exempt ringtones from excise duty. The move will see artists earn more from the use of their songs as ringtones. Now, an event dubbed Skiza Thanksgiving Luncheon held yesterday by Road Media Services chairperson SK Masharia. It attracted hundreds of musicians and politicians. So most of the guests arrived there, and now it's time for them to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Jain.
Welcome once again to the program. This still is Good Morning Kenya. At KBC Channel 1 is the official station handle. At Victor Oloo, at Jain Wambui, you can find us individually on Twitter. And just to get right into the headlines, a copy of the People Daily as well as the Daily Nation. But starting with the People Daily, most of these stories you've actually just touched on them. The first story here on the header being the vicious fight over Ruto's running mate, as Mount Kenya politicians believe the post will solidify their 6 million votes, but others say the region has had its fair share of top leadership position and should now opt out of the race. Is that practical in any way? Well, we'll be coming to those details in a bit. Moving on to the next story on the front page is in regards to President Uhuru Kenyatta's visit to the UK as he co-chairs the conference in regards to education with the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. But now a major boost as Uhuru bags 20 billion for his legacy projects. We'll be coming to that story in a bit. And coming to the main read here on the front page of the People Daily, Raila makes his mountain pitch. Is it a charm offensive, where he was accompanied by a host of people? And just getting to the details of this particular story, as Raila made his 2022 poll case to the mountain. He was yesterday in the Mount Kenya region, where he used a highly choreographed event for musicians in central Kenya's heartland, where he was going to test the waters for 2022 presidential campaign support. Now, he was accompanied by his close family members. There are also several ODM governors and MPs as well, and were hosted by business mogul SK Masharia at his Murang'a home. And the function mainly was used by his allies to help him explain to the people that he is a friend of the Mount Kenyan people. But what was clear was that he was accorded a grand welcome by the people. And considering past events and past instances where he has been to the Mount Kenya region, he was given a grand welcome as opposed to the hostile reception he has gotten in past elections. And from his message, it was clear that this is what has been captured on this particular paper, that the region owes him and his family a debt for having twice supported leaders from the mountains to clinch the presidency. They go on to say that this platform was also used for criticism of Deputy President William Ruto's presidential ambition and stake for the Mount Kenya vote. And this is officially the start of his countrywide tours to continue to unite the country, as he started with the Mount Kenya region. And of course, so many people have had so much to say about this visit, Vic. And of course, artists have also had a lot to say about that. We will be coming to that in a bit. But just to touch on the legacy when it comes to this story that has been featured here on the front page, major boost as Uhuru bags 20 billion for legacy projects. That's a story that has been captured on page 15. But before we get to that, there's still a piece here that is linked to that, where Uhuru woos investors to take up 10 public-private projects. So he was invited to the United Kingdom as co-hosting this particular forum that is ongoing, but he also took this opportunity to encourage investors to tap into the emerging business opportunities in Kenya, saying that Kenya remains to be one of the most attractive business destinations in Africa. And he went on to showcase 10 investment opportunities that are worth over $5 billion under the public-private partnership framework, which he says are a major area that they can come in to invest and help grow the Kenya's economy, and also for them as investors, saying that we ought to go this direction if we want to deepen this cooperation when it comes to foreign Commonwealth development projects. So that has been captured there. On page 7, he also highlighted the fact that they could also consider venturing into the fintech business here in Kenya, which is thriving, and of course as part of the new innovations that we are seeing in this day and time. Vic.
All right. So still on that, excuse me, the autopsy report of the late Kangogo, who died of a single gunshot in the head, that's to the head, according to government chief pathologist Johansen Odur. Now, the family of police officer accused of killing 2 men say that they are satisfied with the findings of the government pathologist. An autopsy on Corporal Caroline Kangogo, the policewoman accused of killing 2 men, revealed she died of a gunshot to the head. According to the chief government pathologist Johansen Odur, the officer died of a single gunshot that entered her body at the right chin and exited on the left side of the head. So let me quote what Johansen said. The gunshot entry was contact, meaning the gun was on the skin because there was a bullet hole and areas of burning called muscle imprint. Now, following concerns that she may have been killed elsewhere and her body dumped at her parents' home in Nyawa, Elgeyo Marakwet, Johansen Odur further says that lab tests will establish the correct situation. So that is as far as that is concerned. Remember last week, her parents went to the health facility to take the body for burial, but then the government had to halt that until the autopsy is done. And now the family say that they are satisfied with that report, Jen.
And just to add on to that, during that 3-hour autopsy that was done, it was witnessed by her close family members. That was her father, her mother, and brother, who we declined to address the media after this. But now DCI, according to the pathologist, he said that he did not make a conclusion as to whether she committed suicide or was killed, but he did refute the fact that the incident happened at the crime, and allegations that she might have been killed elsewhere and her body transported, he did refute that narrative. He went on to say that DCI will also soon release a more conclusive ballistic reports on the gun to verify as to whether it was the gun that was used to kill Constable John Ongweno and businessman Peter Ndigwa, whom she was suspected of having murdered. But Vic, just to also tie that story to this other piece here, regarding the murder of Christine Ambani. So cops arrested this young man, innocent, over the alleged killing of a university girl. He is the prime suspect in the July 12th murder of 23-year-old Christine Ambani. So he was arrested yesterday in Ruai. Innocent Kalio Makoha, who is alleged to be the deceased boyfriend. 2 weeks ago, he is suspected to have allegedly murdered Ambani, whose body was found at a hotel room with deep stab wounds on the neck. Now, according to what the police have gotten so far, it is said that he, after committing this crime, allegedly, he logged into the family's WhatsApp group, posing as Christine, and sent messages asking the family to refund her boyfriend, now innocent, 87,000 Kenya shillings, money that he had spent to settle her in college. This happened, the family were a bit caught off guard. The messages continued. He sent a photo of the deceased while dressed in the same clothes that she was found wearing at the morgue. There was communication between Christine, whom they thought was Christine, but it was said to be Innocent, who was posing as her, between on the WhatsApp group, demanding this 87,000, which went on for a few days. But just looking at a bit of history on Makoha is that he had earlier been arrested in connection with the murder of his brother, the wife, and their 1-year-old baby by setting their house on fire. And according to the police, the matter was investigated by the Mumias DCI and the file forwarded to the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And however, there were orders for public inquest, but before the inquest started, it is said that Makoha attacked his grieving family members and destroyed property. However, this case, he was remanded for a few days at the Kakamega GK prison, but the case was again withdrawn. That is where we are when it comes to the latest in regards to the killing of Christine Ambani.
Wow, it's a tough situation there.
It's a lot, man.
Let's just take a breather kidogo too and tell you how much is a plate of chips. You're a fan.
Waru.
How much is a plate of chips?
Well, it depends with the eatery.
All right.
Or where you are. There are places it goes for 50 bob. There are places it goes for 20 bob. There are places it goes by the size. There are places it goes for 100 bob.
Now we know where you
There are places it goes for 150 kwendelea juu. So it depends with the place that you are at.
Okay. So the price of a plate of chips in some of the fast food restaurants chains about 250 on average. But a bag of potatoes, in the country's highest producing area of Elgeyo Marakwet is 500 shillings.
So sahani mbili ya chipo.
Sahani mbili ya chipo is equivalent to 90 kilogram bag of waru, which is equivalent to 2 plates of chips. So after deduction of harvesting and loading charges, which are 150 bob respectively, the farmer ends up with 350 shillings.
Mi nakwambia waru is a love language.
So farmers from Lelan and Kapiego in Marakwet West Sub-County, as well as those from Chepkorio in Keio South, who had quit pyrethrum for quick and huge money from potatoes, are now counting huge losses as middlemen dictate prices. I wish we had Regina here. The issue of middlemen in business is affecting a lot of business across the country. I mean, at the farm gate, you'll take a product, for example, potatoes, for example. Then they drive all the way to Nairobi and sell a bag at 5,000 shillings.
After getting it for 500 bob.
At 500 shillings. And you, as a farmer, you get 350 shillings to, and all that. So it's business. So let's do business and pay the bills by taking a break, and we come back. We still
talk continue. About warus.
We talk. We'll be right back. On the front page of the Star newspaper, Mount Kenya top guns endorse Raila for 2022. Odinga declares birth of new dawn spearheaded by him and Uhuru. Handshake team to traverse country from next week. Now, ODM leader faces off against DP Ruto for central vote block. All right, Mount Kenya top guns endorse Raila for 2022. Yesterday, they were in Muranga at a function which was hosted by SK Macharia. And still on the front page of the Star newspaper, Caroline Kangogo died of single gunshot wound to the head, according to an autopsy report which was done yesterday by the chief government pathologist, that is Dr. Johansen Odur. All right, so still on that, pretty nothing new here. ODM to give NASA affiliate parties 152 million shillings as a part of the political parties fund shared amongst the NASA parties, and that is part of the deal. All right, police arrest activist in demo over death of girl. Postmortem showed Jennifer Michelle died of heart failure. All right, police yesterday arrested activists during demonstrations to demand justice for a child who died under unclear circumstances at a school in Kayole. Now, the activists say that Jennifer Michelle, an 8-year-old grade 2 pupil, was beaten by a teacher for answering a question wrong. Now, the school denies the wrongdoing. So that is how it's done and how it happened. Still on that story of Kangogo still continues there. And Jain, this is a sad story here as well. It's so sad that the first 2 pages of the Star newspaper just paints a grim picture of what's happening in our society. Another story here, prominent Naivasha farmer dies by suicide at home, and police are now probing the matter. A prominent trader from Longonot in Naivasha died after jumping into an underground water tank. So they're still probing why it happened and the reason as to why that gentleman had to take away his own life. And again now, possessed, quote unquote, mom strangles 2 sons, then surrenders to cops. She says dark spirits possessed her, leading to kill her children. And according to the neighbors who, you know, of this lady, the lady appeared to be very much okay. Nothing happened. She did not show any sign of depression or disturbance for that kind of sort. And later in the evening, she just did her job, bathed the kids, prepared them pretty well, and then she just went berserk. One by one, she took the first one, strangled him. After she was done, she went ahead and picked another one and strangled him again. After that, what did she do? She surrendered to Kabete police station. She surrendered herself to police station, Kabete police station.
I lack words. But this also goes to the piece that we also had on the papers yesterday in regards to a report that was done by a special unit at the DCI that sounded the alarm on the high rates of crime, and particularly yesterday they were focusing on suicide, given there have been about 483 cases of suicide that have been recorded in the past 3 months alone, and these are the ones that have been recorded. So you can imagine how many other cases go unreported or unrecorded for that matter. And given we've had 483 suicide cases in the past 3 months alone, which is almost 3 times the figure of the cases that were recorded by DCI in 2019. But this goes to speak about what people are going through, Vic. You know, just that 1 year that 2020 was, it just discombobulated so many people, it disorganized so many lives, it ended so many lives, and that is also a period where so many lives were also brought into the world. So when we talk about conversations around depression, this goes, and mental health wellness, it clearly shows it is a problem, and a problem that needs addressing before it blows out of control. So, you know, I cannot speak much about that particular case involving the mother and her 2 children. I do not know what was going through her mind, what was her situation, or the kids' situation.
Apparently, according to the story here, She had apparently argued that that night with her husband, and efforts were being made to reconcile them. So neighbors said that her mother-in-law had traveled from Lugari to Nairobi to help her and her husband, Alex Miheso, sort out their domestic differences. Now, the session didn't go well, and new disagreements arose. Now, it said that Diana and Miheso later saw off her mother-in-law, and her husband left. The suspect went back home and strangled her son. One is 4 years old, and another one is 2 years old. And after doing all that, she left the bodies on the sofa. And quite interestingly, police said that they found the body on the sofa, but what she almost went for the young one, who is 5 months old, but what stopped her from doing that is that the 5-month-old baby started screaming uncontrollably, and she said that there's a point that she realized that she did a mistake and she stopped. She woke up. So
all of this stems from disagreements with the partner. Chances are.
And police are saying that they are treating her with a lot of caution, because it's not, the DCIO said that they're treating her with a lot of care to ascertain.
This changes the whole narrative.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps she was disturbed or kind of thought. It was intentional. So
why do we take out our anger on our children when we have disagreements with our partners? I don't know, man. I don't know.
All right. So Raila kicks off Central Tour ahead of 2022 ballot. Still also captured there pretty well on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. You can take a look at that story. Yesterday he was in Murang'a County, hosted by, of course, SK Macharia. Raila said that from here we will go to Nyanza next week, then Western, followed by Coast, and all parts of the country with Uhuru Kenyatta standing on one side and myself on the other side. And that is as from next week. Jen.
Now, just to tie this to a story that I already touched on in regards to our president's tour to the UK, here they go on to add the fact, which wasn't captured here on the People Daily, but on the Daily Nation, they add the COVID-19 angle, where Kenya is set to receive some 400,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine from the UK. And it is expected that the donation of at least 400,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine will be shipped to Kenya in less than 10 days to boost the country's vaccination drive in an effort to keep the vaccination on course and get to the targets that the country was hoping. So far, there has been 1,673,272 doses that have been administered, and this also has been tied to the 20 billion that the government is the UK is expected to announce the 20 billion government and private partnership investment in Kenya. That particular piece that has been that was missing from the People Daily, but all other stories that we have talked about here have also been mentioned here. Most of the stories that have been on the other paper. On the front page of the Daily Nation, there's the particular piece concerning Kagongo's death, and which still remains to be a mystery. Here they go on to talk of also another story concerning a man named Naftali, who is asking how his wife Jain died at the Mbagathi hospital. Again, Victor, as you rightfully put it, so most of the front pages through the third page have a lot of death cases that are reported in our country. Suicide, murder, that is what actually has been featured on this first 2 pages here of the Daily Nation. Moving on to the Raila Moi ticket on the cards as ODM leader weighs in 2022 options. There's also a piece here that goes on to talk of how it is a rat race for DP Ruto's running mate for the 2022 general elections, a story that we have touched on in a bit. Mount Kenya leaders endorse Raila for presidency. Again, more than 50 governors and elected politicians were graced the occasion where Raila Odinga was wooing the Mount Kenya region. Wiper to get Lions' share of funds to NASA affiliate parties. Most of these stories we have already touched on them. Now this one was of interest that happened yesterday. Matu gang makes off with guns, money in broad daylight in a bank heist. Police in Machakos County were last evening looking for 5 armed gangsters who robbed Matu Town Equity Bank branch and stole guns from the officers that were guarding it. The robbers were armed with pistols and are believed to have earlier positions themselves near the bank where they monitored movements of the 2 policemen before hitting and pouncing on them. So the gang is said to have first attacked the female officer who was at the entrance before making their way into the bank hall where they confronted the other police officer, and this is according to a CCTV footage that was obtained by this particular daily. So after overpowering the police officers, the gang ordered everyone in the banking hall, including dozens of students who were queuing to deposit school fees, checks, and many other deposits, to lie down. At least 5 customers are said to have reported to have lost money during the process. An unknown amount of money was taken from the bank, from one of the bank tellers. The gang is said to have escaped on foot through a nearby residential estate after a shootout with police who responded to an alarm. So far, Equity Bank has issued a statement confirming the robbery, adding that no one was injured and the bank's value was not yet assessed. So they are yet to put out the figures in regards to how much money was lost. But you know, when it comes to money in banks, it is insured, so they will claim it from the central bank. But this goes also to speak to cases of insecurity, Vic, you know. And if you got to see that CCTV footage, you could see how they easily overpowered the cops. How they easily overpowered the cops and took possession of those guns. And therein comes the question of the safety of now the people that were in that particular case. Every other money that was in the institution was insured, but what of the lives of the people goes back to how our even training of our officers in such cases. But we wait for more information.
Situational awareness and how to combat, and probably these people, they just did their homework pretty well.
Very well.
And they ambushed the police officer, because when you find only one manning the main entrance and probably another one inside the banking hall, then they probably did their homework. And according to reports, is like the 2 AK-47 rifles that were lost in the hands of the police officers were all, you know, loaded with 30 rounds of ammunition each. So
you can imagine
2 guns lost and 60 rounds of ammunition also lost. That's dangerous.
Luckily, no lives were lost.
No lives were lost. So police are saying that they're still pursuing the culprits. And by the way, they'll not go far. At this time and age, they'll not go far. They'll not go far.
But I think guys are watching too many movies. Money haste ilichanganisha watu.
It's like an evil spirit. One day you'll find yourself getting a room temperature that you did not bargain for. All right. So this is it. DP Ruto set for 2-day visit to Mount Kenya East. The vote, the drive to woo Mount Kenya voters. Now the Deputy President William Ruto is set for a tour of Mount Kenya East. That's as the 2022 elections campaigns gather momentum. The DP is expected to market the bottom-up economic model he's promising to use to transform the lives of Kenyans. On Saturday, he will begin his campaign blitz in the expansive Tharaka Nithi County, where he has lined up a series of activities that will see him traverse several constituencies. And on Sunday, he will pitch camp in Embu County, where he will visit 2 constituencies. That is Mbeere South and Runyenjes, where he will preside over fundraiser, attend church function, as well as roadside rallies, and then get a brief on the membership drive for the UDA party. So the fight for the Mount Kenya votes is still on. Jain, there's a story here. Court orders landlord to refund 11,500 deposit to tenant. Well, right, do you pesa?
deposit na kuwanga ruma.
Court orders landlord to refund 11,500 deposit to tenant, and this happened because the court ordered for the court to pay the tenant to be paid upon termination of the tenancy. Now, Magistrate Judith Omolo noted that claims by the landlord that he incurred expenses to do repairs. This is not unique.
You know, there's a time we had this conversation about the landlords and the tenants.
Yeah.
As per what the laws say, and I'm just paraphrasing, I'm not quoting word for word. Number one, when it comes to conversations around deposit, as long as a house is occupied, wear and tear is bound to happen.
It's bound to happen, whether it is your personal house.
Yes.
Yes. And
that is not supposed to be the responsibility of the tenant. But as we do it, as per what is prevailing, unaambiwangwa deposit yako nditatumiwa ku renovate and refurbish the house.
And exactly, that's what the court noted, that the repairs carried out could not be said to restore the house to the state it was before occupation, because there was no evidence presented showing the state of the house before occupation. So the court said that, you know, you have to refund this guy pesa yake 11,500, and there's some people who pay 3 months deposit.
Yes.
Of 60,000 shillings, and you pay maybe 150,000 shillings,
and you know,
by the time you're leaving,
yes,
you know, we are going to use 80k
to paint the house, and deposit is meant to be security, not money that is supposed to renovate that house. And then there was also the question about when you're supposed to pay the rent, the threshold that is allowed by the law.
Yeah.
Most landlords say by the 3rd or the 5th, but the law actually says by the 10th.
By the 10th.
So anything before that is considered harassment. And these are things that, as tenants, most of us don't even know.
The question is, do you even know your right as a tenant? Because the landlord will always be right.
Yes.
I hope my landlord is not watching.
Usiende upate barua.
Good relationship between me and him. Good relationship. Good relationship.
But this goes to information we need to know.
I mean, information is good. Have that knowledge with you so that you don't fall a victim of such circumstances. Well, there are some landlords who are genuine enough. You know, they do their due diligence whenever you're leaving. They come, they do the assessment and said, this is what we're going to do. If you leave your house in order, they say thank you for the service, and you go to the next house.
And you get your deposit back. All right. Now, as we close this particular segment, Vic, there's a piece here in regards to the new CCTV guidelines that are here have been captioned as set to strip Kenyans of privacy. So the policy, which is to be executed by the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, says that the government will now have direct access to what you are doing in your office, hotel, gym, and any other public facilities with the new CCTV policies. And monitoring this will allow the state to collect raw footage on quarterly and annual basis in all public facilities, and this is mostly meant to be used as with the multi-agency approach on when it comes to crime control and public safety, as in the recent cases we have seen detectives successfully using CCTV footage to track down criminals that have been involved in kidnappings, abductions, as well as murders and robbery with violence. And they actually attribute Kagongo's arrest to CCTV footage that was used to track her down. So if this guidelines are to sail through, the policy will be guiding the installation, operation, and management of all CCTV footage, CCTV systems in public and private premises. And those who fail to observe this policy, they risk closure of their businesses, jail sentences, or fines.
All right. Okay. So let's play some sports, shall we? Shujaa target Ireland as they seek to finish Olympics on a high, and Shujaa head coach Innocent Simiyu says that his charges will be seeking to finish the rugby competition on a high by beating Ireland in their final classification match. Now, Kenya recorded their first win of the Olympics, beating Japan 21-7 in the classification matches. for 9-12, but Simiyu wants his charges to atone to the earlier defeat. That is as far as Shujaa is concerned. Now, his squad declared Kenyan boxers out of contention in Tokyo Olympics Games. Well, they did their best, and we still congratulate them for reaching that far and representing the country in the Olympics. Now, all Kenyan boxers are now out of the contention at the Tokyo Olympics Games after 2 more boxers lost their matches at the Kokugikan Arena in Tokyo on Tuesday. So that is as far as that is concerned.